Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff YouTube channel. Today we're looking at perhaps the most controversial ukulele ever. This is the Epiphone Les Paul ukulele. It has been around since 2012. This is not a new instrument. It's been around for a long time. It's been reviewed a lot of times, most famously by Barry Maz at God Ukulele. You'll want to check out the things that he's written about this instrument for sure if you haven't already seen it. Ultimately, he didn't like it very much, and it caused all sorts of grief in the ukulele world. We really want to like this instrument. Now, I have wanted one of these for a very, very, very long time, and one came up in one of the forums that I follow for sale at a price that I was willing to pay, and it has one flaw, which is this bruise. Where is it? Right there. You can see that bruise right there. So I got it for a little bit of a discount. It does come with a gig bag. It's a very light gig bag, although it does have some extra padding on the inside. It does not do a lot for your ukulele, especially compared to the gig bags being sent by a number of the other manufacturers today. So that said, I bought one, and I'm glad that I did, not just to do a review on it, but this is one that I've wanted for a while. Regardless of what my final score is of it, I'm keeping this one. So it has a special place in my heart for some reason, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good ukulele. We'll see in the review today. Now, for these reviews, I follow what I call the Uke Guide format. About a year ago, I thought about the videos that I was making and how I wanted to frame those videos, and the end result was the Uke Guide. What are the key features of the ukulele? What are my thoughts that are subjective? What's a final score that I give? So I wanted to summarize all of that and had the idea to do so on a single sheet of paper, much like an appliance guide. Here in the United States, every new appliance you get gives you an energy rating right on the side of it. And I kind of stole that idea and put it into a ukulele format. Along with that, I also had a lot of feedback and watched a lot of other reviews, of course, Barry Maz, of course, and others. And there was a lot of discussion in the forums and everything, what makes a good review, and a lot of people just want to hear the ukulele. So that's the very first thing that I do. Generally, I record with my iPhone 11, and that has a Shure MV88 microphone in it, a pretty decent microphone. So you should be getting a relatively good idea of what they sound like, but of course there is compression with YouTube and other things. So in this review, what I'll do is I'll look at my subjective thoughts of the ukulele, then I'll look at just the objective facts of the ukulele, and then come back for a summary. If you don't want to sit through the long review, you can always go to UkeGuide.info and look up the single page sheet on this instrument. All right, let's begin with the subjective information about this instrument. First of all, it sells for $149 with the gig bag, and that's pretty much it. That's all that you get. I don't know if they even include the instrument cable or not. I don't know, because I got mine used. I don't know if you do get that cable, but if you don't, it's not a big deal. Instrument cables are available everywhere, online, you name it. Although they are a great thing to buy from your local dealer to keep them in business. In terms of value, this is not worth $149. You can find these cheaper used, perhaps. You're not going to find them cheaper online. In fact, the price has been slowly going up. A couple of years ago, I really started looking at these, and they were about $100, and I was always looking for a used one, and the prices just continued to go up on these, even on a model that is now 8 years old as an ukulele goes. So when you just get a thin gig bag, an instrument with a pickup, and again, we'll get to it in a few minutes, the qualities of sound, it's not worth the money for $149. So if you're interested in one of these, look for one used. That'd be my suggestion for you. The build quality is good and bad. The exterior is really quite beautiful. It's smooth. The gloss is actually really nice. I like the neck for the most part. We'll talk about some width issues at the nut later. I love the styling. That's another question about appearance. The fretboard is just fine. There's no sharp fret ends. It's all okay. The build quality on the outside is okay. It's the inside that's the problem. So let's take a look at the inspection camera that I have and take a look at what it looks like inside. Hello everyone, let's go into the Epiphone Les Paul and take a look at what's in there. All right. Now there's not a whole lot of room, it's a very tiny sound hole, but you can see there's no kerfing of any kind, it's just glued top to bottom. There you can see the pickup jack on the inside, right there, and it's a simple connection to the piezo, which is drilled through the bridge. There is extra support for the bridge, but there is no extra screw or anything. And that's important because I've seen a few of these Les Pauls on the internet where the actual bridge ripped right off of the instrument. Now, beyond the bridge, there's the tail block, and what's interesting is it looks like the tail block is all part of one piece of wood. That doesn't look like something that's glued in there to me. If I get a little closer, you can see there doesn't seem to be an edge on that piece. It's just part of the wood that it's with, and it just follows along and is glued on. That's it. And then as we roll around, not really much else to see other than just rough wood. Now, I'm going to try to flip this around and let you see what's going on with the top part of the ukulele. So as we go in, immediately there's the block on the neck, right there. There's a little bit of opening and space there, but that's a giant block across the top of the neck. Look how big that is. And it's a straight piece that goes all the way to the corner over here. And look at the top over here. And finally, as for bracing, as you can see down here, there's nothing underneath the bridge plate. So the only bracing can be seen right here at the top if I can get far enough out. That first piece that happens right under the sound hole is the only bracing for the entire ukulele. So what you have is pretty thick laminate, as you can see right in front of me, right there. And with that, the loss of resonance on the body of this ukulele makes a lot of sense. Now we understand why it sounds like it does. All right, so in summary, there is no kerfing. It's a question of how thick that side is. It certainly seems to be one thick piece of wood in the back, and particularly with that little hump spot for that strap button. But more importantly, it has like a solid block of wood that goes across the top through most of it, except for this little edge right there, and really thick laminate. It sort of traps the sound. So while the outside is really well done, it's attractive, it's really good looking, the inside is what counts, and that's what's hurting on this instrument, and we'll get to that with sound later. Now, as for appearance, it's a great looking instrument. Of course, you have the Les Paul signature on there. You have the guitar style cutout. You've got the pick guard. You've got the sunburst going on. You have sort of guitar-like tuning buttons, a little bit bigger than average, which we will hopefully talk about later if I remember to talk about it. You get the strap buttons. You get the really kind of cool output jack, which, you know, normally you just have this little button installed on the side. It looks cool. Oh yeah, bolt-on neck. So all those things come into play. It's very attractive. It's not, you know, it's not super blinged out, but at the same time, it's pretty blingy. If you walk around with this, people are going to notice it. Now, in terms of availability, you can get these right now. You can go to Amazon.com or Guitar Center and order one immediately. Now, in terms of playability, there are a couple things that I want to say about it. First of all, I find the neck comfortable. I'm not bothered by a gloss neck, but if you are, this is going to be a problem. It is a gloss neck. Most of the neck, it seems pretty thin to me. So the real issue comes right at the nut, which is under 34 millimeters. That's really tiny when we're coming to the world of ukulele. However, the string spacing is equal or greater than a lot of 35 millimeter. So I don't know if you can see it, but the strings are really close to the edges of the ukulele. And to people that bend strings, that might cause some problems on the first string. Just something to keep in mind, that they chose a really thin nut, but then pretty wide string spacing for that almost 34 millimeter nut. No sharp fret edges for me. I don't know if somebody else has worked on this instrument or not because it is used generally as a playing instrument. I have no problems as a playing instrument. Now let's get to the issue of sound. It's bad. It's bad. It's really bad as an instrument goes. Now I don't know if you can hear that in the recording, but to me it sounds like someone is calling me on an old-fashioned phone and playing an ukulele through the phone. The sound is completely trapped in here, and that's a problem for me. You need more free resonance, and again, it comes to the fact that the top is way too thick of laminate. There's a block of support up there, and who knows how thick the sides are too. So the whole thing is like overbuilt, like a tank. So it's just as loud as any other ukulele. I actually downloaded a decibel meter, and I was playing different ukuleles and seeing how loud it was. It's just as loud, but the sound is just so caught in there. It sounds old-timey in a non-old-timey body, really. So the only way that I can compare that is, here is my Enya. All right, this is my Enya ukulele, and this is the one with the pickup. It projects, it's clear. And again, I'm not saying this is the world's best ukulele, right? I'm just saying, just as a comparison. And then, so again, muted, hidden. Here is my Flight Spirit ukulele. Solid acacia, so we're not talking plastic. Need to tune it up a little bit. But way more open, way more sound than the Epiphone. So, quite honestly, of all the ukuleles I own, this may be the worst sounding. Some people are going to argue and say, yeah, but you know what? The purpose of this instrument is to be a Les Paul. Well, okay, but here's the deal. A real Les Paul is a solid body electric guitar. This is not a solid body. I was jokingly reading about it, reminded of the Log instrument that was made by Les Paul. Maybe that top is a nod to Les Paul and his Log, but with all sincerity, you can plug it in. And I don't plug in things a lot, but here is, I brought my amp along with me. All right, how about this? So what I would say is it is far better amplified than it is not. But here's the problem, is it's built as an acoustic electric, not as an electric. So the big question for me is, if the tone of the acoustic side of it truly doesn't matter, why not just release this model as an electric ukulele, period? That would make more sense. And then it wouldn't matter what you did on the inside. You could do whatever you wanted on the outside. Solid piece of wood, there you go. Now also, if you want an electric, my other question to you is, in 2020, why not look at something like the Enya? The Enya carries a similar body shape. You can get different colors. Granted, it doesn't say Les Paul on the top. However, then you get the freedom of reverb and chorus right on your ukulele. If you're looking for that styling, without, granted, these do cost a little bit more, but you get the effects right in there, which I think is a better sound, and you get a better sounding ukulele. So again, I get it. The Enya is not a Les Paul. Some people will say, why not just replace the strings? Well, these are not the original strings. These are actually Aquila sugar strings. They came originally, I believe, these with a very cheap nylon string. People would change them to Aquilas, which I think this one was shipped to me with Aquilas. I'm not a big fan of Aquila Super Nile Gut strings, so I put on sugar strings because they have similar thickness. And so I think the tone that you're hearing in the recording is also helped by the strings that are on here, and it's still not that great. So all things considered, if you're looking for an instrument down the road, this may not be the right way to go unless you particularly like the style of this. And we'll talk more about that at the end. So let's go through the objective data for this instrument. First of all, it is a concert ukulele. It is 15 inches from nut to saddle. There are 19 frets. Those last frets kind of get kind of useless way up there. There are side position markers, which is really nice. And of course, there are the front position markers. And the style is a double bout with a cutaway on it. The soundboard is laminate, very thick. The back and sides are laminate as well. The fretboard is rosewood. The bridge is rosewood and is a slotted bridge, which makes string changes pretty easy. A note about that, again, the bridge is not screwed in, even though there's a support place under there. And I have unfortunately seen a number of pictures online of the bridge giving way, ripping the finish with it. So I'm just hoping that that doesn't happen on this instrument. The fretboard is not radius, it's flat. The nut and saddle appear to be bone. The saddle is not compensated, it just goes straight across. The finish, of course, is gloss everywhere, including the neck. The body is 24.25 inches long, not counting the strap button, and it weighs 1 pound, 9.5 ounces. So it's pretty hefty. The tuner type is open geared, and now I can talk about the tuners, and really large buttons. But one of the things that I noticed is when I set the ukulele down like this, sometimes if the buttons are turned down, they're so large that they'll turn, and when you pick up the ukulele, it goes out of tune. So early on, after I changed the strings and they should have settled, they kept going out of whack, and I was like, what is going on? And then I looked at it and said, oh, okay, because every time I put down the ukulele like this, it would send the tuners out of tune. So something to keep in mind if you're going to be playing one of these is you'll probably want to have a instrument hanger near you. I do have one of those on my iPad stand that I use to read music with, so that might be a good thing to keep with you at all times. The action at the nut was incredibly low, so I think someone has worked on this one already. I cannot tell you that the action that you will receive on a Les Paul that you buy will match this. It was really low. It was under 0.5 millimeters, almost measuring at 0.25 millimeters at the nut without any buzzing. At the first fret actually is where that is. And then the action at the 12th was 3.0 millimeters, a little higher than I'd like, but you know what? That's fine. The nut width, again, is 33.75 millimeters. That's really narrow. But the space of the strings, between the strings at the first fret, was 9.075 millimeters. So 9 millimeters apart is really wide. So they've got the strings really spaced out with very little cushion on the side. And then with a total width of the strings at the first fret of 29.54 millimeters apart. And then I also measure at the third fret from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck. Is just the way to gauge how chunky the neck might be. It's 21.38 millimeters from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck. The only other thought that I have is I love this styling so much. I really do. You get the pick guard, which is, again, kind of useless on an ukulele. It's there totally for looks. Now, if you were going to play the pick, that would probably help you out. But the intent of that pick guard is purely for decoration. And I actually do know a number of people that have used like a heat gun to heat this up a little bit and peel it off because they just want to see the full sunburst. Whatever, it's your ukulele. You do what you want to do with it. So let's summarize this ukulele and I'll give it an overall score. I've been looking for one of these for a while. Didn't want to pull the trigger and pay full retail price, and quite honestly, neither should you. It's a controversial ukulele because I think we like Les Paul guitars. There are some ukulele people out there who do not like ukuleles that look like guitars. Okay, that's fine. That's your preference. But I think a lot of people resonate towards the looks of this ukuleles, and I am one of them. I think it's gorgeous. I think they did a beautiful job with the outside. The problem is the inside, right? So it's made out of thick laminate, has a big block across the top, and the sound is just trapped in there acoustically. It sounds better plugged in, but here's where I get a little crazy. Most of us don't spend a whole lot of time plugging in. And in fact, a friend of mine at a local ukulele club asked, how many times have you plugged in for performance or otherwise? And my answer was not very often. And quite honestly, when I'm recording an ukulele, I typically don't want the piezo sound. I want the acoustic sound of the ukulele. So I end up recording into a mic to get a better acoustic sound than the sound through the piezo pickup. As I rate this, understand it's a bad rating, but I personally also still like it. I know it's a total contradiction of terms. So if you rate this compared to other ukuleles in terms of what an ukulele should sound like, and if that's ultimately the massive, most important thing of an ukulele, I can only give this 1 out of 5 ukuleles. The sound is truly that bad as an acoustic instrument. If it was meant to be an electric instrument, it should have been made as an electric instrument, skipping the poor job with the acoustic side of it. And the fact that it's 2020 and you can still buy the same ukulele without any revision based on the feedback that it's gotten over the years is kind of inexcusable. People will continue to buy it because it looks cool, but unfortunately, that doesn't make it a good instrument. Yet, once again, I'm not getting rid of this one. That is the Epiphone Les Paul concert ukulele. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff.